Don't worry, one page. It's a great honor for me to be amongst you and be in the same place that shaped my life, that shaped my future, shaped me as a human being, shaped me as an officer, shaped me as a member of a larger community. It's because of this greater issue speaker series I came and I studied here. In the mid-70s, the late King of Jordan made a speech here. And I was supposed to go to West Point. And I was flipped, and I came here. He liked this place, and so my future started here. I'm going to talk to you about the new Middle East. And what impact does this new Middle East have on the world? And I'm going to leave about 4 minutes to talk about what this place has done to me and what it's going to do to each one of you. I'll start with a joke, and it's a true story. There was one guy who came up to speak to a large group of people. He kept going on and on and on. And people were trickling out. And there was one gentleman left in front of him. After he finished his speech, he came to the gentleman and said, "Thank you so much. You're the only guy who stayed and listened to what do I have to say." He said, "No, sir, I'm the next speaker." So I hope that does not happen to me. I know the president is here. Commandant Mercado is here, so I'm sure, at least I'm guaranteed 2100 will be present, no matter how long I speak. We move to the new Middle East. What happened in the Middle East? Most of you heard about, if not all, about this new so-called Arab Spring. All these movements that happened in the Middle East, expression of views, political, economic, and social. Some of them resulted in a peaceful transition of power. Some of them resulted in a not so peaceful transition of power, and some of them ended in a disaster, such as the case in Libya, and we are following also a couple of cases in Syria and in Yemen. Those will have an impact on the Middle East, and in return also it will affect the world. Why it happened? Very simple. Did not need a rocket engineer to figure out what happened. It was built on many factors that drove the people to come out. And you've got to remember that when you assume responsibility, either at a junior level or a much higher level in your life. First of all, many nations took the dignity out of its people. They came as presidents, either on top of a tank, or some of them actually were elected. But they thought they're going to make a dynasty and become royal families. And they left no room for others to move, and they thought that they've got the best answer and no one else has the answer. And they treated the people as if they're servants to their leaderships, to their vision, to their enlightenment. And that took them down, and took them down harshly. Another thing, economy plays a very important role, but dignity is number one. Dignity is number one. When you take someone's self-respect and dignity, that's what happens. When people revolt, they revolt with a very ferocious way. Then, economics. Lots of unemployment in the region. It's a rich region. People look at the Arab world, think the whole Arab world is rich. Actually, the Arab world is poor. There's only certain nations that they've got the oil resources. And those oil resources are coupled with a very minimal population. And that's why you hear about all these rich nations, or the other Arab world is really not so well off. Jordan is a country of 6 million people, and it is considered a poor nation. We don't have any resources. Our resources is one very important resource, is the human resource. And I think this is the best resource you can have. Because if you have the other ones and you don't have the human resource, you might as well just not have anything. There was a poor distribution of wealth. There was no social development. Everything centered in the capitals, and the capital of those nations did not spread out throughout the region. You had an extremely high literacy rate, where a lot of university graduates, a lot of higher education graduates, they had no work. So we have an economical situation, and we have a social situation where, as I said earlier on, dignity of the human being was, so to speak, raped in a sense. And there was some type of social injustice, economical injustice. All that combined together could not have stayed. And then you have local problems. Those are general problems in the region. You have local problems in the region. You have the problem of the Arab-Israeli conflict. You have some people who believe that Israel should be wiped off the map. On the other hand, you have some people who believe of coexistence. And the people who believe in coexistence, most of them, and that is the majority, but unfortunately they are the silent majority. On the opposite side, you have the people who believe that the state of Israel should be wiped off the map. An extremely minute group, but it's the vocal group. It's a group that uses terror to project its ideas. But whether you're with this group or the other group, all realize that there is a problem in the Middle East called the Arab-Israeli conflict. It used to be called the Arab-Israeli conflict. Now it's more called the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, because some countries, Jordan inclusive, have made a peace treaty with Israel. We're sick of wars. The region is sick of wars. The region is sick of terror. You gear a nation to work with terror, all that is at the expense of the nation's economy. I had meetings in Washington, D.C. all throughout the week, and driving between State Department and different federal agencies in law enforcement and intelligence. You would think you were somewhere in Fort Knox, less the tanks. And I'm sure the tanks are somewhere not very far away. So the terrorists have won the game. They made us live in fear. And I'll get back to that in a minute. When this Arab Spring will end? This Arab Spring will end when things are corrected. For example, I take my country, Jordan, the only country in the Middle East where we have faced a vocal expression of reform, but there was not a single shot fired. There was not a single human being in Jordan killed or severely injured. The reason for that is our leadership in Jordan is not a leadership of tyranny, is not a leadership of coercion, and is not a leadership of things that when God created it, after that they broke the mold and there is no longer any production of such people. We adhere to reforms. We're on the right path. Take Libya as an example. I was in Libya 4 weeks ago. I went on a trip to see how we can help that poor nation. The ousting of Gaddafi has costed Libya 50,000 injured, 40,000 killed, 50,000 missing. And the missing, I guarantee you, 90% of them are not coming back. But it's for time to find out. We're giving them all type of forensic assistance now in order to figure out where those people have gone, finding a lot of mass graves. That shows you the full range, where one country is on the far end of the spectrum and the other nation is way on the other side of the spectrum. When it will end? When it will end when the people get what they want. But there is a big problem too. There is a catch to it. Are the people ready yet for that? But who decides that? If someone tries to decide that, then he's playing God all over again. We enter to the same vicious circle. And I hope it takes the right time to write and reach for the betterment of the world. Now I move to the second phase, which is the impact of what happened on the world. There are many positive things. Many nations who were not part of the international communities now will become a part of the international community and play a role and take a role for the betterment of humanity. People will live at ease because they've got a say in their day-to-day living. Whether it's bad, whether it's good, they've participated in the decision-making process. And this is what our virtues, our religion. In Jordan, we do not have people from the Jewish faith, but we are a nation of Muslims and Christians. That's our values. That's our values, to live peacefully, coexist. That's what will happen. But if anyone has any ideas or any presumptions that it's going to happen tomorrow, it's not going to happen tomorrow. It's going to go through a very vicious circle until we get to a plateau where those good men who came up through a truly democratic process take over. Any nation that seeks democracy must go through turmoil, and it has to go through. There is no nation in the world that has just went from the United States itself, how many years of wars and turmoil it's gone through until it made it. France, the French Revolution, how many lives it's taken. But we don't want a copy of the Russian Revolution, where with the Second War, 20 million people died, and then came an oppressive regime that took a very serious number too. The negative mainly is what I feel is the interim period from transiting from where they were until they get to this plateau which I spoke about. I saw that in Libya. Libya, there's so much weapon inventories. that are not accounted for. I cannot divulge the numbers, but if I tell you the numbers, I think numbers will kind of equip half of the continent of Africa's armed forces from all type of weaponry, air, sea, land, anything. If only 5% or 10% of those weaponries get in the wrong hands, you and I will pay the price. That's a very negative thing in the turmoil. Turmoil when there is lawlessness. You start affecting your neighbors. So in this interim period, the international community must be vigilant in watching such a thing. And specifically, our worries in Jordan and the worries of the United States is from Libya. We in Jordan, we take a stand, and I personally believe, I don't want to speak on behalf of my government because I'm coming here as a person, as a member of this school's alumni. I believe if there is no international mandate for a force to go in Libya and enforce the law, other countries which we fear now will smell like a rose compared to what we are going to see in Libya. Someone might say, why is he ringing those bells and all that? Because that's reality. And with such immense amount of weaponry that is not present, it's really scary, very scary. Security of other nations will be affected. Before, let's say for an example, State of Israel was happy with cozy with the neighbors. They had peace treaty with the neighbors. We don't know who's coming. We don't know who's coming. The Western world, the Western powers, they advocate for democracy. But we've seen it when democracy sometimes does not suit the people who want democracy, they kind of shy back. And we see now in Egypt, we see in Tunisia, we see in Syria, which has not ripened yet, the flourish of the Islamic movements. If it's a peaceful Islamic movement, we don't worry, because in Germany, in many European countries, the leadership is either from Christian Democrats, or it's not a problem, but don't infuse religion in the day-to-day state affair of your country. No one can deny. You can deny politicians, but you cannot deny church. I cannot deny the mosque, because we're all God-fearing citizens, no matter which faith we believe in out of the three monotheistic faiths. It's the Secretary of State of the United States earlier on during the President Bush administrations, and earlier on they spoke about the new Middle East, the new world order. This is the new Middle East, and it had nothing to do with the new world order. This one is homegrown, but homegrown not from a positive point of view, homegrown from a negative point of view, because people were oppressed. People were dealt with injustice, so they rebelled against the system. I was in New York and also in DC in the past week, and I raised the alarm about something else, and I said, we're going to see a period of what we call system defiance. If the Arabs can do it, the Chinese can do it. The Chinese can do it, the Europeans can do it. We saw that in Italy, we saw that in Spain, we saw that in Greece, and we saw that to a certain extent in the United Kingdom. And we saw it to a certain minimal extent in Wall Street and some pockets in that. It's people learn from each other. And in the old days, to get a message across, we needed 2 months. My wife is sitting here with me, and I joke always, when I used when I was here in 77, I used to write her letters. The letter will take 12 days to get home. And I'll say, how are you? I hope things are good. And then she reads it, writes a letter, goes to the post office, another 12 days. So here's a month just to say, how are you, and to tell me I'm well. And I remember when I used to place a call to Jordan, I used to wait 72 hours to get the call. And I'll be in one of the classes, and it's lost. Now, it's instant. And that's what gathering people together. Social media is very positive, but social media also is used by the wrong people too, and it's creating a lot of problems to us. I'll stop here regarding the subject of the new Middle East, and I will touch a little bit on where we are now, what bonds us together. I don't want to talk a lot about it, and I will leave people to asking questions, but when I came here, it was very funny. I was the first Arab to arrive here. And I remember it was in a hot summer, August. I was wearing a velvet suit. Don't take any wrong ideas, guys. And it was hot. And there was those kind of ties. It's like you're wearing a vase. There's so many flowers on the ties and prints and all that. And I came in, long hair, mustache and all that. And I entered 3rd Battalion and I was looking up. And I remember one guy scream at me and say, do you want to buy this place? Definitely they think that there is a rich Arab who comes here and all that. And I'm not a rich Arab, by the way. But no one looked at me as where I come from. No one looked at me as if I was an Arab, if I was a Muslim. They asked me some silly questions sometimes. Say, how did you get here? Did you ride your camel up to here? Or, okay. I said, no, I came on our airlines. You know, I landed in New York and I took a flight here. You know, and Hussein, do you dream in English or do you dream in Arabic? Hell, I don't know. You know, and. But my classmates are just right here. The most important thing is I never felt as an outsider. Never. And that got me moving. My first roommate is right for me now. Fielding Williams and many other bright young men. One guy is going bald over there. And this place shaped me. This place made me the man I am. And I apologize for the ladies, I'm a man, so to speak, and I hope it brings the woman and the women this core. And taught me a very important thing, taught me humility. And broke the nose. You say it in Arabic, they break your nose, kind of. Your nose is sticking up all the time. We come from broke the nose, made us all equal. No matter who you are, what background you come from, who your father is, it's what you make as a person. Taught us honesty. Gave me self-esteem. Whether I had it before, whether I don't, I really don't know. But I'm 100% sure that when I left that place, this place here, I was flying on cloud 7. No one was better than me. I really felt that I was the best human being who walked Earth, and so every single one of us. This place gave me tolerance to accept other people's ideas. I remember in 77, there was an address here by the Israeli foreign minister. Gentleman, God bless his soul, his name is Mr. Abayo. And as an Arab, I refused to say, I said, he's my enemy. I cannot come. I cannot attend. And it's just coming from background. I'm a kid, I was 17 years old. And there was a Colonel Wilkinson, I will never forget that. He said, Hussein, even if he's your enemy, you've got to listen to your enemy. How would you understand your enemy if you don't listen to him? Go there, ask a question, embarrass him. He didn't want me to embarrass him. He wanted me to attend. And when I graduated, I had about 6, 7 Jewish friends. And by the way, they were the only 6, 7 Jewish cadets in the school. So tolerance was very important. Dignity. Give me the cutting edge. I was different. And I always had a sense of pride. Probably some of you in their mind now saying, what this guy is talking about. If you're still serving dinner at 6, you're thinking of dinner, I think. But I'm telling you realities. I hope once in 5, 6, 10, 20, 30 years from now, when you look back and remember anything in front of what I said, remember what I said only the last 2 minutes. The other 20 minutes before, forget it. Because it brings the human in you. You're an honest man, you're a straight man, you're a man of dignity, you're a man of honor. You're a man who is ready to assume any responsibility. I was a military officer. I succeeded as a military officer. I had 2 field promotions. I attended the best school. I'm a graduate of the United States Marine Corps Commanding Staff College. I'm a graduate of the Royal College of Defense Studies. If it was not for this institution, I would not have made it there. Then they took me to diplomacy. I succeeded. They brought me back to service. And I'm heading now the largest security agency in the nation, which is in charge of the safety of every single human soul, whether a Jordanian or anyone who sets foot in Jordan. And my institution also enforces the law in Liberia, Ivory Coast, Haiti. We did Congo, we did Kosovo, Croatia. So our work is not only in, we train police in Afghanistan, we train in Iraq. My institution trained 67,000 police officers and law enforcement agencies, not from Jordan, since 2004 until 2011. 67,000 people, plus minus 100, 200. So if there is any gratitude among minor gratitudes, my gratitude is here. Remember that, and I thank you very much for being patient. I hope everyone understood my English language. I've lost my American accent, picked up a bit of British accent, infused it with some Arabic lingo, and I thank you very much. I really thank you very much, General Rosa.